Leading the league in information, we bring back in our good friend JP Morosi, staying very busy this offseason, not just on the hockey side, but also on the baseball side, and busy trying to decide whose ballots he's going to cast when it comes to the upcoming Hall of Fame. JP, first and foremost, happy holidays. It's good to see you again. And of course, let's talk about this Hall of Fame ballot. Some new and old names on this thing, including a pair of teammates that won a World Series in the city of brotherly love in 2008. What's your take on Utley and Rollins?
LG, good morning and happy holidays to you as well, my friend. I do have in my office right now, the room where I'm at, I have my Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. It has not been sent in yet. It's a postmark deadline, December 31, so I've got about a week to think about it, and I'm thinking a lot about, as you mentioned, the double play combo that led the Phillies to that World Series championship in 2008, Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley. I am a consistent Rollins voter. I believe that he belongs. A very unique set of statistics for him in terms of the history of the game as a shortstop with home runs, triples, and stolen bases. And you look at that, the second longest tenured double play combination ever, Rollins and Utley. Now, Rollins has the edge over Utley in terms of the games played. He was obviously able to stay healthier than Utley was the time that Chase missed. Chase, for that period of time, with the power that he had, was so unique. But look at Jimmy Rollins, what Jimmy was able to do, what he averaged for the better part of a decade. And I look at this and see why you were there and you saw you were playing against Jimmy across the field. When you look at what Jimmy Rollins did as a switch hitter, stealing all those bases, triples, home runs at that position, the reliability every single day, winning a World Series championship, a lot of October appearances, see why. I believe that Rollins has been tremendously overlooked by a lot of Hall of Fame voters.
I'm with you, JP. And for me, I broke into the league in 06. So 07 was my first full season. Granted, when I came in 07, Philly was that powerhouse. And Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, that entire nucleus of guys really carried that team to 5 straight NL East titles. But when I'm watching Jimmy at the time, other than Jeter, Jimmy was the best shortstop in the game for almost a decade. I mean, you had Miguel Tejada, you had Troy Tulowitzki, Garcia Parra, I understand you had A-Rod and Jeter. But when you're talking about the power speed combination and durability that J-Roll had out there year after year, he didn't have a lot of all-star games. Even when he won the MVP in 2007, he didn't make the all-star game that year, which is shocking. But that's why I don't get too wrapped up into how many all-star games does he have, or even sometimes even looking at the WAR. Because when I think about who the best shortstop in the game was at the time, I think of J-Roll as a top 2 guy, and not even number 2 in the National League. He was number 1 in the National League, in my opinion.
It's a great point, CY. And I'm always a believer that when I talk about the Hall of Fame, if I'm going to write a one-page summary of the era in which the player played, how important is he to that narrative? I am a storyteller. That's how I view the game, obviously. And so I look at it through that lens. How important is Jimmy Rollins to the story of baseball during that generation in which he played? And from watching the game, covering the game, being there on a lot of October nights in Philadelphia, he had a very significant career. And it's the consistency that he brought that I believe gets him into the Hall of Fame. And I also think Chase Utley is someone that I'm going to look at carefully on my ballot as well. I almost put Utley in a similar category, CY and LG, to Joe Mauer, and that they both missed some time, but when they were at their peak, they were really elite. And I like that Utley was able to stay around and have that second chapter of his career, if you will, with the Dodgers and make a huge impact on that club. You think about his impact on Corey Seager. And I do love the teammate element to all this. I'm certainly, this will not surprise anybody, I'm a big believer Lou Whitaker belongs in the Hall of Fame alongside Alan Trammell. And this is part of how we view the game, through that lens of iconic teammates and stories. And Trammell and Whitaker in Detroit were that. Utley and Rollins were that in Philly.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually have a T-shirt of Utley in a Dodgers uniform, which just somehow happened to be floating around there, and he spends a ton of time around that organization. So you can't overstate or overlook that factor, and I think context within the era is absolutely key. Rollins in his 3rd year on the ballot. Torii Hunter in his 4th year, over 2,400 hits. received 6.9% of the votes last year. What are your thoughts on him?
LG, that number is way too low in terms of support for Torii Hunter. He's someone that I voted for a year ago. Obviously, it's a tough call with just the number of great players on the ballot this year. But CY, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too as a center fielder. All the Gold Gloves that Torii won, all those hits. And I often make this point. I voted for Scott Rollins, and I was thrilled that I did, and he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I look at Torii as being a very similar candidate to Rollins in terms of the importance of the defense that Torii brought at that position. Look at those names on that list. 9+ Gold Gloves with 350+ home runs. 6 players ever. CY, you think about Torii Hunter, and he preceded you in that position in the major leagues. I look at it this way. When Torii was at his peak, when Barry Bonds was tackling him for making that amazing catch in the All-Star game around that time, there were not very many players at all in baseball. Maybe you could count on one hand that the Twins would have traded Torii Hunter for. Think about that. How many players in the game would the Twins have said, yeah, I'll trade you Torii Hunter 1-for-1 for this guy? Not many at all. He was elite at that position, a demanding one in the middle of the diamond. I believe Torii Hunter deserves a lot more support than he's been getting.
I completely agree with you. When I think of center fielders, the best center fielders in the game, I think of Griffey, I think of Andrew Jones, and I think of Torii Hunter. I feel like I understand they don't have the same offensive years, but Torii Hunter, 9 Gold Gloves. I mean, I think of Nolan Arenado at third base. He was the guy that everybody, every center fielder of my generation coming up wanted to be like, and he was no, slouch at the plate either. He's a guy who's going to throw out 25 homers every season, hit for a good average, steal bases. He was the complete player, in my opinion, and I feel like he deserves to be in there as well.
The other guy that I'll mention quickly here, speaking about the American League Central, Mark Buehrle. And we're at a time in the game where we see very few players, very few pitchers hitting 200 innings on a year-over-year consistent basis. Buehrle did that for a decade. Plus, you've got the 05 World Series. Plus, you've got the perfect game. Plus, you've got another no-hitter. He was involved in a lot of very consistent and excellent seasons there on the south side of Chicago. Look at that. 14 seasons of 200+ innings, the most in the wild card era. And again, was he dominant in terms of a microscopic ERA in the same way as Pedro Martinez or Roy Halladay? Perhaps no, but I am a big believer in guys who post. Those 200-inning seasons, significant. Look at those innings pitched. Second most since 2000, alongside CC Sabathia with CC at number 1. And by the way, CC, when he's on the ballot, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. We have to remember that as we're looking at the candidates, especially starting pitchers now, it's a different game than it was 40 and 50 years ago. We're not going to be seeing Bert Blyleven type numbers of innings and strikeouts necessarily. I really am a believer here. Mark Buehrle is another guy, much like Torii Hunter, who has been underrated to this point as a Hall of Fame candidate.
JP, I love an early campaign for CC Sabathia also. Only 24 perfect games in the history of Major League Baseball. It's tough to overlook that. And by the way, Torii Hunter, those 9 Gold Glove seasons were consecutive. So we can also stack that onto the argument. JP, thank you so much, as always.
Thanks, LG. Thanks, CY. Appreciate it. Thank you.